All right, it is time for my favorite video to film, my monthly palette ranking. Hello and welcome. If you are new here, my name is Rachel, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. I have a stack of 11 palettes that are brand new to my collection, palettes that I had tried for the very first time recently, and I've tested them enough to give you my final thoughts on them, and so I'm doing it in a ranking style, which is always more fun in my opinion. I am going to link all of the palettes down below in the description box, as well as everything that is on my face, and let's get to the ranking. So I'm hoping that this should come as no real surprise, but this is all just based on my own opinion, on my own really preference. That's what a lot of this comes down to, because really there's not a ton of palettes nowadays, or at least palettes that I receive or purchase that are bad quality. It's not often. There is one in this ranking that I don't think the quality is very good, but usually that's not the case. So really, I rank them based on color story, formulas, packaging, because that does matter to me, and just overall my excitement level, how often I want to reach for it, things like that. So that's really what my palette ranking is based on. So let's get to number 11. Coming down at the bottom of the pack, I really did not enjoy this palette. It was really disappointing to me, and that is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Fall Romance palette. So I really enjoy the packaging. It's got that velveteen touch like the old school ABH palettes did, and I love the color story, although I will say in person, it's very deep. A lot deeper than I thought it was going to be. And for me personally, with my mattes, I prefer a light to dark gradient. Now again, I can just reach into another palette if I want a lighter shade, of course, but that does come into account when I'm trying to put a palette against a palette against a palette. If there's a palette in the ranking that has more of a gradient, it is just going to be bumped up for me personally. But I don't think the quality of this is good. I found the mattes pretty hard to work with. They're not the usual, in my opinion, Anastasia mattes that I remember. Like way back, they're very powdery, and I have the Cosmos palette. I did pick that up not too long ago. I feel like the mattes in that are way better than this. These are just hard to work with, a little bit more on the thin side. And then the shimmers in this, I don't really like them at all. The shade Moonlight has almost no pigment to it at all. I don't mind a toppery shade as long as it has some sort of sparkle, but this is just very, very dull. And I created a look with the shade Divine. I didn't film it. I didn't even take pictures because it was one of the worst looks I've done on myself in years. Like, I just could not get it to work. I wanted to use this shade Divine, which is claiming to be a metallic, but it is very dry. Like, extremely dry, and it looks more satin, like if you look at it in the pan. And actually on my hand it doesn't look that bad, but on my eyes I could not get this to work, and the look came out absolutely terrible. It's a rare occasion, not to toot my own horn, but it's a rare occasion I come up with a look that just looks bad, and I just really didn't have an easy time working with this, which is a shame because, like I said, the overall vibe of this is pretty good, and I expect more from ABH. Coming in at number 10, I have the ColourPop Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon For Love and Justice palette. So I did receive this whole collection in PR. I was really thrilled, and a lot of the products from this collection I really, really enjoyed. This is more of a preference thing, I'll be honest with you. So this is just kind of the opposite to what I said about the ABH palette. The mattes in this are just far too light. I, again, prefer something that has a gradient, that I can get different looks. I really do like to use 2 or 3 matte shadows in a look that I can build up if I want to make it a little more smoky. But this, honestly, like, it's very, very light. And the deepest shade, Girl Power, here is pretty mid-tone. It looks kind of deep in the pan, but it's pretty mid-tone on the eyes. The shimmers in this are pretty. Some of them are more of that like softer metallic that ColourPop does, but we do also have a couple of these like glitter hybrid shades, and then we have one that's more almost like a Super Shock, like it feels squishy. So I actually enjoy the different types of shimmers that are in here. You're getting a few different varieties, which I always enjoy, but just the mattes are too light. And again, I can make this a companion palette quite easily. It's not a big deal, but again, if I'm putting it up against other palettes in the countdown, this just comes in a little bit lower. It's not a bad palette. I don't think the quality is bad, but yeah. That's all I have to say about it. Coming in at number 9, I have a palette that's not new, but it's new to my collection that I recently picked up. And this is the Natasha Denona Mini Zendo palette. I love the Natasha Denona Minis. They are some of my favorite palettes in my entire collection. I feel like the quality is always really good. The color stories that she curates are wonderful. They're so packable. They're so mix and matchable. Not a word. And I've kind of convinced myself that I am a collector of these mini palettes, of ones that I enjoy the color story. Like, I'm not gonna pick up that new one that just came out, the Trio Chrome, because I would never get use out of it. But when I saw this color story, I thought it was pretty and it went on sale. That's the number one thing why I picked it up. And I think it's nice. It's not my favorite mini. The color story itself is fine. Again, it's very light to mid-tone. I do enjoy when she puts a darker matte shade in one of these palettes. That really just makes it, like, if this was a matte that was like a dark reddish brown, this would have been way higher up. But I like having a dark matte, man. It just gets my heart pumping. And it would have made it more versatile. But you know, it's a 5-pan palette. How much versatility do I really expect? Not a ton. I also didn't love the metallics in this. They're fine, they're pretty, but I feel like the metallics she's coming out with now are much more special. So it's fine. I like it. It's pretty, but it only can go up this far on the countdown just because I like everything a little bit more. Coming in at number 8. This is a little bit of a surprise to me, but I will kind of explain my thoughts as I've been doing, obviously. This is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Forget Me Not palette. So there are things I like about this, and there are things that I don't like about this. So let's start off with the things I like about this. Packaging, gorgeous, with this like pink marble. Oh, so beautiful. And I really like how big of a mirror there is in here. And I love Blend Bunny matte shadows. If you've been here before, you know how much I rave and say that they are like some of my favorite matte shadows in my entire collection. I just think they are blendable, pigmented without being too pigmented, easy to work with. They're just really, really good. And I'm never gonna complain about having a palette full of neutral matte shadows from Blend Bunny. This is what I've been wanting because I have all of her other palettes and they're pretty much all mostly colorful palettes. I've got every colorful matte I may need, but now I've got several different neutral shades in different depths. So I enjoy that. I also really love these metallics / highlighters at the bottom. They are so beautiful on the lid, so beautiful on the lid. I think they're great. And they're pretty as highlights too, but I actually prefer them on the eyes. The reason this isn't like tip top is I just don't feel like this is something I will use on my face. I've tried several different combinations of these tones to create like a bronzer contour situation. I don't like to contour my face. I don't like cool tones on my face as contour. I just don't contour. So I'm not gonna get use of this on my face. So with that being said, that is like one thing about it that like it could have been way smaller pans because I'm only gonna use these on my eyes. So that's all. It's a good palette. I enjoy it, but I'm not the person that is going to use this fully as it's intended to be. I did use this on my brows the other day and actually it was really, really good. I haven't used powder in my brows in a long time. I used the shade Here and Now and it was actually perfect. So I am very happy to have Blend Bunny neutral mattes in my collection. This will come in handy, but yeah, I just don't see myself using this necessarily on my face. Coming in at number 7, I have the Sugar Drizzle Plumeria Dragon palette. First of all, the packaging is so adorable with this little dragon. And then on the inside, you have this like bright pinky purple with a pop of a blue in there. I think quality of the shadows, both the mattes and the metallics are very, very nice. I love that you're getting some more like really sparkly metallics. You're also getting some more traditional metallics, and even the traditional metallics are still very pretty, shiny, but not sparkly or anything like that. I always, like I've said a million times, I always enjoy having multiple different textures when it comes to metallic shadows, and the mattes are great. Pigmented, easy to work with. There's different depths, which I appreciate. This is the only reason this is coming in here is I just enjoy the other palettes more. I don't really have anything negative to say. I guess if I had to really be picky, I would prefer maybe one of these to be a dark matte, like a dark brown matte. That would have just pulled it together for me. And there is no inner corner highlight for me. Not a big deal. I can reach into the hundreds of other palettes that I have. But overall, I've enjoyed this palette. If you like the color story and you like the type of formulas I just talked about, I don't think you would be disappointed. Coming in at number 6, I have the Wicked Widow Beauty Graveyard Smash palette. I did receive this in PR. I love a spooky theme, so I love the packaging. And then on the inside, we have this cute little curated color story. This is my favorite color story that I've personally tried from Wicked Widow Beauty. I have a few of their palettes, and this one just calls to me the most of the ones that I've tried. I think the quality of the shadows is great. I would say the mattes in this are a little bit more on the buildable side. They're not ultra pigmented off the bat, so it is a little bit easier for like a beginner friendly palette. The shimmers in this are really beautiful. I love Wicked Widow Beauty shimmers. They're stunning. There are two more traditional shimmers. These two, the brown and the champagne. Love having this like white champagne for my inner corner. And then we have two they're calling duochrome multichromes. They are duochromes that are not very strongly shifting. So if you don't want something that's like overly shifty, you want just like a subtle shift but a really pretty shine, these two are really, really beautiful. The only reason this is coming in here, again, I just prefer the other palettes. This is a good one. If I had to be nitpicky, I do feel like these mattes don't necessarily all go together. Like, I can't really use every single matte with every single matte in the palette. I have to be a little more selective, as opposed to like the Sugar Drizzle one. I feel like it's a little more monochromatic, where I feel like all the mattes in this go together. That's kind of it. Other than that, I think it's a really, really nice palette. I do have a code with Wicked Widow Beauty. It is Rachel Palmieri 10. It's not affiliated, but it does save you 10% off. Coming in at number 5, I have the Gourmand Girls and Doodles by the Bunny Haunted palette. I think of the three, I was thinking about this the other day. I was trying to figure out which one is my favorite. It's so hard to choose. I do really enjoy this one a lot. The thing I like about this one more than the other two, by the other two I mean the Spooked and the Nightshade, is there are way more mattes in here, and I love the selection of mattes that you get. You get a black, which is my deep shade that I'm looking for. You get more like grungy greens. You have a maroon. You have like a taupey gray. You have a purple, and you have two yellows. I think the selection of mattes in this are really, really beautiful. I do think some of the shades in this are pretty close to each other, like these two yellow mattes. They do look pretty similar on the eyes. Other than that, I think it's really pretty. I do like there is also a more satin shade down here. Again, different textures. The shimmers in this are just so like sparkly and wet looking. I do like the quality of both the mattes and the metallics. The mattes are a little bit more on the buildable, silky side. They're not super powdery. They don't give a ton of pigment off the bat. They're easy to work with. And like I said, some of these shimmers are more sparkly. This is more of a satin. This one up here called Eerie, the green, is a little bit more of a traditional metallic. Really, really beautiful palette. I do have a code with Gourmand Girls. It's Rachel. That one is affiliated, so I do get a small commission if you use my code, so thank you. But I don't know, I'm tempted to say this is my favorite of the three. All three of them are so gorgeous, so it's hard to pick, but I really, really enjoy this one. I'm super happy to have it in my collection. Coming in at number 4, I have the Nomad Cosmetics Ghost Town USA palette. Again, the theme is amazing to me, like the spooky ghost town theme, the lenticular cover. I love Nomad's packaging, theming. They really they kill it every time. And they obviously put a lot of thought into their releases. This is their Halloween collection for this year, and they are a destination-based indie brand. They do different collections based on destinations around the world. And so this is like the Wild West, like ghost towns in the United States. And then on the inside, we have this gorgeous color story. It is more leaning neutral. It's like a neutral with a twist type of palette, which you know if you've been here before, that is my favorite type of palette. The quality of these shadows is very good. Very, very good. Both the mattes and the metallics. The mattes are ultra buttery, ultra blendable, that great in between, like not super buildable, but not overly pigmented. And the shimmers in this are very pretty, wet looking, opaque, sparkly. Typically Nomad, I feel like with their palettes, they tend to change up their shimmer formula. And this one honestly is one of my favorites in terms of the shimmer formula. I love that you're getting a green section and a neutral section. I'm not a huge blue fan, but I do like these blues. Like they're very pretty, more like dusty blues. So I really love this palette. Obviously it's coming in at number 4. shimmer. And I do have a code with Nomad. It's Rachel. It's not affiliated. I always put all my affiliate codes down in the description box, by the way, if you're ever curious. All right, coming in at number 3, we're in the top 3 now. I have the Fantasy Cosmetica Warlock palette. I did receive this in PR. I was so excited. This is the first palette I've received in PR from the brand. There's so much I love about this palette. I love the packaging. They are a fantasy-based indie brand. So their collections are just, again, very thoughtful, thought out, very good. And then on the inside, we have this gorgeous color story. Oh, so fun. More like jewel toned, which is always a really pretty thing for the fall and winter, in my opinion. It's matte heavy, which is wonderful. The mattes in this are good, really nice. I would say kind of that middle ground, not overly pigmented, not sheer, but right in the middle. So really, really beautiful. The shimmers in this, though, is what, for me, just takes it over the top. I'm going to swatch these shimmers out for you. You have to see them. They're just like what, Rachel? Speak. They speak for themselves. One of the most beautiful shimmer formulas that I have in my collection. Wet looking, sparkly, impactful, shifty, just gorgeous. And like upon first glance, this isn't my quote favorite color story because, you know, I'm a neutral girl or like neutrals with the twist. There's really no neutrals in here, in my opinion. I love this palette. I think it's so good. I'm so excited to continue seeing what the brand comes out with because they did a great job. I also really love the lip oils that they came out with this collection. I created a look with this and I didn't film it and so many people were asking about it. I kind of feel guilty, but sometimes I just like to play with my makeup off camera. I don't know, it's just a different experience for me. So I do that sometimes just for myself, but I really enjoyed playing with this. All right, top 2. Both of these honestly could be number 1. They're neck and neck. They're both right up my alley, gorgeous, formula-wise, color story-wise. Both are beautiful. So coming in at number 2, I have the Unearthly Cosmetics Fairy Frolic palette. This is not a new palette, but I'm embarrassed to say when I bought this. It was a long time ago, and I finally got around to using it. So love the packaging. I always love the artwork from Unearthly. I do have a code with Unearthly. It's Rachel. It's affiliated if you ever want to use it. And this color story is beautiful. It is a beautiful fall color story. Neutrals with muted pops of color. I love all 4 of these mattes, although this one I will say this is a green that leans slightly blue, not always my favorite, but I did enjoy using this. They all go together. Like, I feel like I can really mix and match with these, and I love that there is a dark brown because I can use this dark brown with any of these mattes to deepen up any look that I create. That to me is super important, and all of these shimmers are so beautiful. The mattes from Unearthly are pigmented. Like, they are quite pigmented, but they're very silky smooth. They're not super powdery where they get messy. They're really, really beautiful. And then the shimmers are pretty hard pressed in the pan. This is an older palette, like I said, so I don't know if the new version is a newer formula. I'm not sure, but I never had a problem with the old formula from Unearthly either, so I fully enjoy this. But anyway, the shimmers are hard pressed in the pan, so they are not like super crumbly. They're really nice and smooth on the lid, which is my favorite. Like a smooth shimmer is my favorite. And I do love the different tones that you're getting in here. It's a great palette. It's a great fall palette. A little grungier, muted pops of color. You can still get a neutral look. And I love Unearthly as a brand. I think they do amazing work. Number 2. And coming in at number 1, can I get a drum roll, please? It is what I'm wearing on my eyes today. I did a very, very simple look. Didn't film it because I'm literally in a rush. As soon as I'm done filming this, I have to jet out the door. It's the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. I mean, yeah. There is literally nothing negative I have to say about this. It has everything I need. It has an inner corner highlight, whether I want it to be matte or shimmer. It has a deepening upshade. The quality of these shadows is phenomenal. The mattes are honestly like some of the easiest mattes to use. Are they the most pigmented? No. But I think they're so like blendable, foolproof, beginner friendly. Also, if you have experience, you would enjoy these. You've got different depths, different undertones, and the shimmers in this I think are gorgeous. and we have, I think, 4 different formulas of shimmers in here. We have more like traditional metallics. We have that more like sparkly metallic. And we have a couple new formulas called the Wet Effect Glossy and Wet Effect Sparkling Finish. And they are just like really pretty, more toppery shades. Like I have the shade Whisper all over my lid, and then I used Mia just with my finger and topped it over, and just to give it a little extra sparkle. I feel like this is such a versatile palette where you can create a very simple, everyday, light look, which I enjoy. I enjoy this type of look. I think I used 2 mattes and those 2 shimmers and call it a day. And it just looks elegant, understated, but sophisticated. Or you can make it a little more glam, deepening it up with one of these darker shimmers, this darker matte. The packaging is beautiful. I just don't have anything bad to say about it. I just don't. I love Natasha Denona's formula. I love neutrals, and I love all the things that I just talked about, different formulas with the shimmers, light to deep in the mattes, blendable mattes. So it's number 1. All right, and that is it for this palette ranking video. I hope you enjoyed it. I do one of these every, I would say 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how often I get to test my palettes. I've got a lot of palettes that you've probably seen me use lately that I just haven't tested enough to get my full thoughts on. That's only when I put it into a palette ranking. I don't talk about palettes and rank palettes that I've used once or twice. I really try to only put palettes in the ranking that I've really got my full thoughts on. So that's why I'm kind of backlogged. There's some things that have come in that I just haven't had a chance to fully test. They're in process, so I will hopefully do one of these in the near future again. But I want to hear your thoughts on any of the palettes I talked about today. Do you agree with my rankings? Did you pick them up and you love them, or you don't like them, or did you skip out on them? Let me know your thoughts. I would really love to know because I love hearing from you. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. I do upload videos weekly, and I'd love to see you back on my channel again. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.